Good morning. When I woke up today, I saw that Ahri's pick rate on League of Legends went up dramatically since the last patch. So because she's so popular, I thought I'd make a video about it. But at the same time, I also wanted to play this new game, The Engineer. The Ahri subreddit is in the top 10 most popular League of Legends subreddits, indicating an enormous fan community of the champion. But in The Engineer, you can do this. With 17 skins, Ahri is one of League's biggest cash cows, only beaten by these other iconic female characters. But Engineer. Yeah, you probably know where I'm going with this. Today's challenge is to build a giant Ahri statue in The Engineer. This would prove quite a task, as turns out engineering is pretty hard. God damn it. I had never played the game before, and I couldn't really find any big structures for this particular game built by content creators. Just some basic treehouses, bridges, or towers. Yeah, I called you basic, you good-for-nothing piece of shit. Jesus Christ. Teach me. Please. And to make it even more difficult, our engineer will have to climb up the final structure with the worst climbing mechanics in gaming since League of Legends promo system. And all of these hurdles will be amplified by my incredibly smooth brain. I did some research on the topic in the subreddit, hopped in the game, and spent some time in the tutorial.
Hold the stand-up key until you are fully erect.
Already taken care of, brother.
Wow, perfect form.
Eventually, I picked this model to replicate. So buckle up and get ready to witness the construction of the 8th and 9th wonder of the world. The first thing we did is just like any other half-decent engineer, we downloaded the 3D file of the model so we could meticulously translate the proportions and dimensions from the model to the game. Yeah, I just started building. I first put a concrete foundation and some basic lines to ensure that there was at least some symmetry in the construction. After that, I started making the concrete legs. In the engineer, you have several building materials. The logs, which are pretty strong but heavy, wooden beams, which are less strong but lighter, planks that serve as connection points between logs and beams to enforce them, concrete blocks and mortar to glue them together, and then some less used materials such as wheels, rotators, propellers, rope, and a chest full of stuff like carrots and this guy.
Please, kill me.
The initial plan was to build the core of the legs with concrete, and then a plateau at the hips to build the rest of the upper body on. Once the concrete core was finished, I would give some thickness to the legs by connecting a bunch of planks to beams which stick out of the concrete. I did some fixing of the feet, and proceeded to start working on the butt in the same manner. Beams anchored to the concrete outward to give it shape, which we connect with planks to close it up. Not bad. I was pretty happy with the result, but at the same time, it was clear that we would have to pay attention to some things from here on out. I covered the outside with connection planks, which are actually meant to be used as reinforcement. Using this much planks was pretty inefficient, as it embodied a lot of unnecessary weight, just like your mom, and also appeared to be pretty heavy on my PC, just like your mom. That one doesn't even make sense. Turning the graphics down a bit helped somewhat, but we would have to review our approach for the top of the body. It was time for a round of thorough study and planning. I did my best to bring out my inner engineering student by sitting in a room by myself while scrolling through pictures of precariously dressed ladies.
You know how tough it is to get stains out of your couch? It's really hard.
While I should actually be learning about construction techniques such as backfilling or load-bearing beams. The last one sounds important. Anyway, this moment of study gave me a plan on how to proceed. Central logs would be put down to function as the main structural support. They should really come up with a name for that. And would hopefully be strong enough to hold the rest of the upper body. Once again, the shape of the belly, sides and back would be determined by the lengths of several outward-facing beams. But the outsides would be closed, not by planks, but with sheets. Sheets are considerably more annoying to work with given the controls are more complex, at least from my monkey brain, and they also have to be manually nailed in, sometimes taking up to 8 nails per sheet to be considered stable. I was using less material for more area, and it generally seemed more efficient than whatever this is.
What is that?
I consider this my first wrinkly brain moment. Also, taking apart the pieces from the now constructed middle area and rebuilding them later, if need be, would be rather straightforward. Not that we're ever gonna need that. Then, at a certain point, it was time for a little test. I had already been testing the structure's stability from time to time with the build button. Why are you moving? Okay, whatever. While in construction mode, you can basically do whatever you want without gravity being an issue, but to see how it actually holds up, you press the build button and gravity gets turned on. That is much better than I expected. I would soon need to start building the arms and tails. At the time, I was completely oblivious to how much of a grueling battle of attrition this would be. To get a better feeling of the game's physics, we did some tests, such as gauging how easily these completely randomly placed logs, of which their location and direction are of no consequence, stuck to our construction. This was honestly a bit of a relief. The game's physics seemed pretty realistic, and we wanted the challenge anyway. So, moving on. I made some dummy arms to see the general proportions of what the final result could look like, and decided to tackle the tails first. The arms would likely be the hardest part, since they stick outwards all the way at the top of the structure, whereas the tails still have some concrete in the vicinity to more easily anchor them to. So I cleared some of the back panels to expose some of that luscious, firm concrete, and proceeded to use logs as the core of the 3 tails we would build.
But Donut, Ahri actually has 9 tails.
Yeah, well, then use your imagination like any other engineer does.
It's all just about keeping the angle consistent on the stroke and then doing a few strokes. You just need to do 3 or 4 strokes, do that once a week.
At this point, it became clear that the game was not built to construct giant statues, as my PC was really starting to suffer.
I want to die.
I'm starting to understand why these 1 video a day guys stick with tree houses. We lowered the graphics to the almost lowest settings. Wait, that's actually much better. Oh, this feels so good. And to squeeze out every bit of juice from my PC as I could.
Excuse me, what the fuck?
I even switched the model from Chrome to Edge. I know that doesn't help, okay, just let me cook. And yeah, I understand the irony of not having Firefox. The plan for the tails was simply genius, if I say so myself. Star-shaped patterns would be placed at fixed distances, and once again covered by sheets on the outside. Genius. We tried to make sure that the tail became less heavy the more outward it went, by using smaller beams, smaller sheets, and even no sheets at all at the end of the tail. Only supporting planks needed for, well, support, so it doesn't fall apart. Yeah. Genius. It was time to test if it held.
5,
Yeah.
The supports at the bottom of the tail were still not strong enough to hold it up, so we needed additional reinforcement. I placed another log behind the one pulling the tail so that the weight was distributed more evenly, which seemed to work. I built the same supporting structure for the left tail as for the middle one, and yeah, it didn't work. Not good. Yeah, we should really think of a way to fix that before proceeding so we avoid problems in the long Are you building the exact same thing on the right side? Buildy build. That doesn't work either. Well, no fucking shit, buddy. Finding a solution to stabilizing the tails was essential to completing what we set out to do, and the clear next step in the process. You kept building, didn't you? Well, on to the left arm. You get the approach, beams as a skeleton, and sheets to cover it up. I even constructed this hyper-realistic replica of Ahri's flame. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the hard part, ensuring the arm does not fall off. Our first attempt went kind of overboard with random connections between separate logs, which didn't even come close to holding the arm up. So on our second attempt, we tried something different by... Let me guess, you're back on the tails. Thank God engineering is not my day job. After this waste of time and sanity, I did reassess the stability of the tails, which led to our second wrinkly brain moment.
He's evolving.
The anchoring logs were being ripped out from the concrete due to the heavy tails pulling perpendicular to the way it was mounted. There were some other issues, such as the distance between where some of the force was exerted and the anchoring point of the log, but long story short, I built additional concrete reinforcement behind the tails and put as many small horizontal logs on the concrete as possible. We then connected them to the main log, which the tail was attached to. This setup much more efficiently distributed the pull between multiple logs, and less leverage was asserted due to the shorter length and smaller angle between the beams and pulling force. Time for another test. It worked, kind of. The tail still fell, but this time not because the anchoring system let loose. The tail itself was still too heavy to stay onto the main log, which meant we needed a lighter tail design, which meant deleting our previous work. So I tried a different tail build, but it was still too heavy. I felt like destroying the whole fucking thing out of nerd rage, but in game that would just look like this. But I was angry, so I did that anyway. That'll show them. I deleted all the tails again and rebuilt the left tail, focusing on finding as many small efficiency wins as I could. The tail did become a bit shorter than previous designs, but your mom told me that size doesn't matter, so there's that. We worked with less of these outer beams by having the supporting planks, which we anyway needed to build in order to keep the tail together, double as points where the sheets can be nailed to. Just like I nailed your mom to the sheet. At this point, we had reached a moment of truth. Would our tremendous effort and multiple redesigns of the tail and its anchor bear fruit? Or Was the whole endeavor hopeless, and shall we fade into the depths of mediocrity? Please tell me it holds, please tell me it holds. Don't break. Perfect. We have ourselves a tail. Now we just have to do this 3 times. God damn it. Alright, rinse and repeat for the other 2 tails. We put horizontal logs on the concrete blocks as anchor points and copy the ladder tail design. And it held. Of course, the whole structure still falls since it's out of balance, but our task to create tails that do not snap off was successful. Building the right arm was pretty easy. I had my building process well laid out by now. Step 1, despise my own existence since I have to delete half of what I previously built. Step 2, think ahead on how the structure will be anchored down. And 3, proceed to build the inner skeleton and outer shell. Wow! Then, finally, it was time to tackle our final boss. The left arm. I spent almost the entire evening in my room by myself working with this arm, which again made me feel like a real engineer. We took the first necessary step by deleting everything. I think I've done everything twice in total, like by now. Including a good portion of the left side of the body to make some space to work in. I first set up a basic arm without any weight on it, which already made the preliminary anchoring come loose. I was quite puzzled by this, but after some tests, it was clear that the concrete base itself was tearing apart. The log where the arm was hanging onto was placed on this part of the concrete base, which sat firmly on top of the left leg, but the extra anchoring, this log, was connected to the central concrete block, which was torn backwards by the weight of the tails. So I got rid of the anchoring, again. Tried to ensure the concrete core tore apart less easily by adding more concrete, and made sure that the beam that the log was attached to was on the same concrete component as the extra anchoring log. I finished up the rest of the arm with as little material as possible, did one final test, which failed. The anchoring was still too weak and was coming loose, so I got rid of it again. Also got rid of what remained of the left side of the body to make even more room for this, which you may recognize as the genius anchoring system we devised for the tails. To my complete and utter disappointment, the genius anchoring system combined with further support still did not hold the arm up. How could this be? We did everything right. Something just didn't add up. The culmination of everything we've learned until now still didn't work. Was this as far as we could get? Was this the end of the line? My assumption was that this was due to the angle between the direction that the arm was pulling on compared to the direction of the anchoring, which is not in a straight line. Because it pulls it to the left, I assume. Pulls it that way. Yeah. Alright, you know what? One final try. So I deleted the arm again. And this time built it in a straight line with the anchoring. Oh, that's straight-ish. This, finally, held. Kind of. The whole structure was still exploding from within, but at least both arms and the tails remained rooted to the core of the body. I closed everything up with sheets and proceeded with the head, which didn't prove too difficult as it was nicely on top of the center of mass, unlike these godforsaken appendages.
Asparagus.
I also put these balloons as eyes. I closed the remaining gaps, added some hair. There we go, hair. And did one final test. It may look a bit ridiculous, but it was honestly further than I expected to get. I was proud of what I made, especially given the effort put in. I essentially have 15 hours of footage of me doing this. Brilliant. Fuck. But still, we continued. As Genghis Khan once said, those who do not strive for perfection are cunts. Genghis Khan. In a final attempt to balance the whole thing, I slammed as much concrete as I could onto the front of the body, under the outer panels. This helped a bit, but still failed to bring the whole structure into balance. I had reached as far as my barely adequate building skills could reach, so I just built another concrete support from the ground up to support the backside, which left us only one thing to do. Climb it. With this guy. Oh. Okay, let's try that again. Just get your arm. Oh, yes. Up. Yes. We see acceleration. Almost. To the right side. Yes. Okay. What the fuck? Alright, that works. Let's go up. We made it. Alright, let's keep going. Yep, I'm stuck. Alright, let's try to get up. 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 Yes! Oh, we made it. Almost there. Am I stuck in the head? No! Oh, no, don't fall through that. Come on, get up. This is not... Alright. Wait, it's actually holding.